All right. So we're going to start this gathering, this gathering of a community of people interested or curious about mindfulness, or people that have read the Mindful Day, with a short mindfulness practice. So just sit in a way that's alert and relaxed. So we both have a sense of awakeness and alertness, but we're also relaxed. We're letting go of any tension or any tightness. You might want to have your feet flat on the floor. That can give you a sense of stability. And have your spine straight but not rigid. And just feel your body. You're just dropping your attention into noticing what it's like to sit right here, or stand if you're standing. You're just bringing the awareness of your mind into your body. So your mind and body is actually in the same place at the same time. And now bring attention to breathing. Just feeling your body breathing. Noticing the rise and fall of your chest. Or maybe you're noticing the air coming in and out at the nose. Just seeing where it's most easy for you to discern the breath. And that can be your anchor of attention. So there's a distraction. My golden retriever is barking. And you just take that in as a distraction. Notice that and return attention to breathing. That's what we do every day when we're mindful. We've got distractions from around us, from our phone, from emails, from people, and also internally, our own thoughts, our own ideas. So all these things pull our attention out of the present. When we notice that, we just bring our attention back. And a way to do that is to have an anchor, like the breath. So let's all bring attention to an inhale. Feeling the air come in and out. And let's do another. Noticing the beginning of a breath. And each time your mind gets distracted, just bring your attention back to breathing. And now just connect with your intention for learning more about mindfulness, for reading the Mindful Day, the book, for joining this Zoom community webinar meetup. Just why is that important for you? How can that help you in your daily life? And I'm going to invite the bell. When you hear the sound of the bell, just listen to it all the way to the end. And slowly open your eyes, bringing your attention back to our virtual community, right here together with Sharon.
Thank you for that, Laurie. Perfect. That feels fantastic. That was the perfect way to start this conversation. So for anybody who is new and might not be familiar, my name is Sharon. I am the founder and CEO of Go Love Yourself. It is the #1 rated personal growth subscription box for women, and I am a leadership coach. So I am excited to invite everyone here tonight to talk to Laurie about the Mindful Day, to explore mindfulness, and to hopefully achieve the intention that you set out for yourself today. If you are joining us later after we have recorded it, welcome, and you are always welcome to add questions, and we can make sure that Laurie gets those later. For everyone who stays on till the end of our call today, I'm going to reveal two things. One is how to sign up to win Dare to Lead, which is Brene Brown's new book, as well as all of her other books. And I'm going to reveal what the October box will be as well. So stay tuned to the end, and I will be providing that information later. So we had a chance to do a couple of intros. I know, Kate, you started to introduce yourself and your mindfulness practice. Marla, I know that you are here via chat, and we are happy to have you here as well. Please, please, please participate in that chat. We're happy to have you here and communicating with us however you can. So Laurie, I know that you mentioned you had some information to share with us today, a brief little presentation. I would love for you to introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about the book and share what you have for us.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. I actually have been on a book tour for 3 months on the East Coast and the West Coast and in parts of Europe. So it's been a wonderful time to meet with all different size groups and get a sense for people's questions and curiosities about mindfulness and what gets in the way and what they want to learn of. So I'm happy to share any of that with this group. So I typically will start with the definition of mindfulness. Does that sound like a good place to start with your group? All right. So mindfulness can be thought of as the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and doing so non-judgmentally, which means having an attitude of openness and curiosity and compassion. So there's a lot of parts to mindfulness. A lot of people might think of focus or I'm paying attention, and that is a core skill in mindfulness. But just as important is awareness. So the awareness that surrounds that paying attention and the insight that comes when we do pay attention. And then equally as important as awareness and attention, you can think of that as one wing. The other wing is the attitude or mindset we bring to paying attention. There's a lot of people in the world that pay attention and tune in and concentrate and are very focused, present, but they're judgmental or they're comparing or they're critical or they're unkind. So mindfulness is about training ourselves and building the skill, capacity to be present and pay attention, and also training ourselves in qualities of the filters we're using, how we're taking things in, how we're cultivating qualities of a positive outlook and curiosity and compassion. So there's two big parts of it. In the Mindful Day, I've integrated mindfulness and compassion and the positive psychology teachings. So there's a whole field in positive psychology that is very aligned with mindfulness teaching. So we've got both parts, and that is underscored with science. So for all of the teachings in mindfulness and compassion, the research on why this practice is, why does it work? How does it work? How does the mind and body work, and why will doing particular practices shift our state in real time and ultimately build new traits, new ways of being. So mindfulness, compassion, positive psychology is supported by science. And maybe the most important part for a lot of people is that it's written in a way that's very, very practical and accessible so that there's how-to steps in every chapter. I think there's so many great articles and books on mindfulness. What can be challenging for many is that it doesn't translate it into our everyday lives, in the lives that we have, whether we're commuting or multitasking at work or in a meeting or we're cooking or we're trying to fall asleep at night. What does it look like, and how can mindfulness and compassion help me?
That's super helpful. Thank you. So I know a number of folks submitted questions earlier, and I think you had a chance to take a look at some of them, Laurie. One that kept coming up is the integration throughout the day, which I know you have tons of strategies for. Can you share a couple of your favorites with us?
Yeah. So thank you, Sharon. That's really the heart of the book, is that we can integrate mindfulness into the very day we have. And I'll say one thing before I highlight some of the key strategies, is that a lot of people ask me, what is the difference between mindfulness and meditation? And I always make sure I include that in keynotes, because they're conflated and they're used interchangeably. But mindfulness is an outcome. It's a way of being, just like fitness is an outcome. So if I go to the gym and exercise and work out, I will become fit. And if I meditate, that's a mental training exercise. I can become mindful. So meditation there's hundreds of meditations. So we can train in mindfulness in a very formal way. We can get up in the morning and do particular meditations, or do them at night, or take breaks during the day, or go to a mindfulness class. And that's one way to become mindful. And I include those ways in the book. But the heart of the book is about, how can I take these micro meditations and integrate them in small slices throughout the day. That's one big piece. And the other big piece of integration is taking the activities that I already do every day. They're already part of my day, and I can do them mindfully. So let's take that, for example. One of the ways that you can integrate mindfulness is through exercise. A lot of people in the DC area where we live are really morning exercise. I think I read last year that this is the either number one or in the top 3 of cities in the United States that exercise, believe it or not. So a lot of people say, well, I already go running in the morning, or I already go to yoga class. I can't fit one more thing in. And what we can do is deliberately pay attention to, let's say, running while we're running. So that's a way to integrate mindfulness. And I'll be more specific. Instead of putting your headphones on and listening to a podcast or some music, or talking to a friend, a lot of people run in groups, or planning your day while you're running, you're actually paying attention to the felt sensations in your body when you're running. You're noticing your breath. You're noticing your feet hitting the ground. Maybe you're taking in the beauty of the trees if you're running through Rock Creek Park, if you live here. So you can turn you can turn exercise into a meditation to strengthen your capacity to be mindful and present. It's difficult to do that for an entire run, but you can take parts of that run and do that. Another is taking the first sip of your morning coffee. A lot of us are multitasking in the morning and running around the house and packing things up. If we have kids or roommates, we're coordinating with them. And we can actually bring a loving awareness, bring a kind attention to the smell of the beans before you brew the coffee, to the smell of the coffee before you sip it, to the taste of the coffee or tea if you drink tea. And that minute of mindfulness counts. Not only do you savor the coffee more and enjoy it, so that's another big benefit of mindfulness, is we savor life more and enjoy life more, but also we're training the circuitry in the brain that gets stronger when we direct attention on purpose. You might be on mute. I
Yes.
can see more if you want me to keep going. I didn't know if you wanted this to be more of a chat back and forth, Sharon, or kind of a one way. Either way is fine.
Yeah, I think either way is great. And I would love to hear what questions Marla, Erica, Kate, and everybody else has. What's coming up for you ladies? Any particular questions, any ideas about how you're integrating mindfulness throughout the day or what that might look like? Laurie, to your point, I love when it's incredibly interactive. So as much as we can get everybody involved in this, the better.
So I just had a comment, and that's that I spent some time in Ethiopia once, and there's a coffee ceremony where in the room they roast the beans, and then they carry the beans around and waft the wonderful scent of the roasted beans toward the guests, and then they grind the beans and they make the coffee. And what Laurie was describing was what that ceremony does for you. It makes you aware of every part and kind of every sensation of the preparation and then the drinking of the coffee. And it's done as a generous hosting of a visitor, but it's that was very helpful. Thank you, that description.
I love that example. And I've heard of that, but I made a note because I want to read more about that Ethiopian ceremony. And I'll point to a chapter in the book that mirrors that. The book is organized in 5 sections, so it mirrors a day. It starts with home, where you begin the day, you start the day, and then it goes to work, and then play, and then love, and then home. And in the section on home at the end of the day, I have a chapter on drinking tea. And I explain very much what you just explained, that drinking tea at night can be a ceremony. And I was in Beijing teaching mindfulness to a high-tech company in China. And part of that 2-day the corporate mindfulness training, we actually were all invited to a beautiful Chinese tea ceremony. And each part of that tea ceremony is very intentional. And I love that you introduced the word generous, because that is a mindfulness attitude or mindfulness quality. So, and then the other thing I share in the book is when the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh at a mindfulness monastery, one of his monasteries, that we were there with him for a week. And I was with my husband and daughter, Ava. And he actually taught us, and taught Ava in particular, she was just sitting right next to him, to drink tea. And he always uses tea as part of his mindfulness teaching. And this idea, like the way he moves when he takes the tea and pours it in the cup, and the way he picks the cup up with 2 hands, is all very deliberate. Because he says when we use 2 hands, we're more focused, we're more intentional, we're more reverent. And we have incorporated that into our own family life, where we drink tea and we serve it on a tray. We have a collection of beautiful teapots. We have a lot of different teas. And pouring the tea and smelling it, sipping it, is a way to connect as a family, which offsets in our society today, where I think we're all so busy and we don't have a lot of connection. We can create rituals that create connection, and we can create rituals and structures that support us in being mindful. And that's one of the themes in the book for home and work and play and love, is that it's not just about building skills to be more mindful from the inside out, which is very important, but from the outside in, can we create routines and structure or ritual that we schedule into our day or to our week or to our month. It's much like the beautiful Jewish tradition of Shabbat dinner, where there's a day of the week and there's a time and there's ritual for connection and being present. We can use a tea ceremony or having coffee individually or with others. So thank you for bringing that up. It's great.
And Laurie, that was a question that was also submitted earlier. Folks are very interested in how to bring their families into this. So other than a tea ceremony, do you have some suggestions for how we might be able to do that?
Yeah, I dedicated the book to Ava Grace, who's now, and I started introducing her to mindfulness and meditation at about, I don't know, even 2, 3 years old. So you would be surprised at how we can do this with children. When she was 3, she went on a 3-day mindfulness retreat in the Russian River in California. And one of the things we did at that retreat, and she later did a retreat at 7, is simply walking. We can take walks with children, and when we're taking the walk, we notice where our attention is. It's our minds are designed to wander. So we notice where our attention is and we bring it back to the walk and to our child. We don't have to use the word mindfulness. We don't have to use the word meditation. We started when she was little saying, let's go on a pajama walk. And we would put her pajamas on and then we would walk in the neighborhood. And then we would do this next part, which is bringing in the senses. Whenever we use our 5 or 6 senses, depending on whose list you're using, our senses are always in the present. So I would ask Ava, do you want your walk to be, walk about smelling tonight, or about seeing, or about hearing? So she would pick, and then we would walk through the neighborhood and notice what we smell all the way through, which is very delightful. And we're absolutely being present and aware, and we're connecting with one another and our surroundings. So taking a mindful walk is a wonderful way. I think the other, another big thing with kids, and I've got these examples all the way through the book, is we can teach them the concepts of mindfulness as part of how we interact with kids every day. So if Ava comes in from school and she's upset about something, I first put the oxygen mask on myself. I notice, if I get triggered or I feel a swell of emotion in me, that's normal that would happen with me, because we're all wired for empathy. It's an innate capacity. So when our kids are going through excitement or joy, or maybe they're too revved up or too hyper, maybe they're sad or frustrated or upset, it's very easy for us as parents or grandparents or babysitters or whatever it might be to resonate with that and get swept away. So the first thing we do is ground ourselves. And I use the breath to do that. I just come back to myself. I anchor in my own emotion, my own sense of the stillness that's always inside. And then I connect with Ava. And the most powerful way to connect with her is just by being present. So this took a lot of practice over the years, but we often have a tendency to fix or tell or give advice. And what I try to do is just, she can feel when I'm just present with her. And I can just make an observation. Looks like you've got a lot going on. Or, it looks like I can imagine you feel upset from that test or the comment that girl made or whatever it is. So I'm just maybe saying a little bit and then giving her space. And then when she starts to talk, I direct her into deepening her emotional awareness, which is a key aspect of mindfulness and emotional intelligence. And I do that by saying, she says, Mom, I'm so mad or I'm so upset. I'll say, where do you feel that in your body? So directing her to sense into her immediate experience. Mindfulness is about our direct experience. And then she'll say, oh, my stomach is in knots, or my hands are sweaty, or whatever she'll describe, a physical sensation. And that is a key thing to teach in mindfulness. That's what I teach at Google and University of Maryland Business School and NASDAQ and all these companies. I teach awareness, and we can teach that to kids. From there, we can then teach them what to do with that. That's tools of self-mastery and self-management. But the first thing is to help them understand what's happening with them in the here and now. Another big thing with kids that is so key, and I was just talking about that with my mindfulness colleagues, is teaching them to take in and notice what's good. And there's a great practice by Rick Hansen. I outline that in the beginning of the book called Taking the Good. And we can have kids notice when something is really good, whether it's cuddling with a dog, or tasting something delicious, some gelato or ice cream, or noticing a beautiful sky. So Ava, at an early age, learned that practice. And taking in the good means that we notice what's good, and then we make it bigger. We amplify it. We really absorb that moment with all of our senses, and we hold on to it for 15 seconds. That offsets our negativity bias. We're wired to just kind of notice what's not good. It would be even better if this was here, or this might be a little broken, or I'm doing okay, but I'm not doing enough. We offset that by noticing the good and taking in the good. So she and I might step outside after a big snow, and the backyard is pristine and everything is sparkling like diamonds. And I'm just thinking of a recent time when we did that, and she just said, "Mom, take in the good." And we just sat there and just like took it in and let it really integrate into our system. So that's another really great way to teach mindfulness to kids.
That is beautiful. And we have so many moms and teachers and coaches in this group that I know that is going to be immensely helpful. I'm curious about something that you said earlier around putting on your own oxygen mask before you're able to facilitate this, right? Can you say a little bit more for the moms and teachers and coaches, and quite frankly, anybody who knows another human, about what that might look like to take this same exact idea and do it for ourselves in that moment?
So the idea of putting on your own oxygen mask is that we need to develop, I don't like to use the word need, but it's beneficial when we can develop the capacity to access inner calm as a parent or a teacher or a mom before we can effectively take the next step with a child. And the reason I really emphasize that is I do a lot of mindful parenting workshops